This week on At the Movies, we've got the exclusive early review of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds, starring Brad Pitt.
Is it too weird?
No, I think it's kind of magical.
Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana don't let a little science fiction interrupt their love in The Time Traveler's Wife.
There's a lot of secrets in District 9.
Aliens and humans are...
My name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and I need me 8 soldiers. We're going to be dropped into France dressed as civilians. We're going to be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
Yes, sir!
Quentin Tarantino and Brad Pitt take on Nazis in Inglourious Basterds. I'm Ben Mankiewicz from Turner Classic Movies.
And I'm Ben Lyons from E! Entertainment. One of this summer's most intriguing and anticipated projects, Inglourious Basterds, opens in theaters next weekend, so this is an early review. From the talented mind of writer-director Quentin Tarantino comes the story of a special team of U.S. soldiers sent into Nazi-occupied France with one objective: to brutally murder and scalp as many Nazis as possible. The Bastards, as their troop is called, are led by Aldo Rain, a tough, scarred, battle-tested Southern lieutenant played by Brad Pitt.
Show me on this here map where they are. You got to tell me how many they are, and you got to tell me what kind of artillery they're carrying with them.
They can't expect me to divulge information that would put German lives in danger.
Well, now, Warner, that's where you're wrong, because that's exactly what I expect.
Told in chapters, Pitt, while solid in the role, is not on screen as much as you might expect. The real scene stealer here is Christoph Waltz, guaranteed to be nominated for an Academy Award for his portrayal of Nazi Colonel Hans Landa.
Our little foe has an instinct for survival and preservation second to none. And that, monsieur, is what a Jew shares with a rat.
Eventually, the story of Colonel Landa hunting down and murdering Jews living in France intersects with Rain and his men attempting to bomb a movie theater hosting a Nazi propaganda film. Melanie Laurent is sensational, playing a French Jew in disguise, running the cinema, and Diane Kruger is also strong as an actress turned spy working with the Bastards.
You still get us in that premiere?
You speak German better than your friends? No. Have I been shot? Yes. I don't see me tripping the light fantastique up a red carpet anytime soon.
Superbly acted and well constructed, each scene is paced to a chaotic, climactic frenzy. Nobody writes a scene like Tarantino. His dialogue is outstanding. While this isn't his best work, it's right up there in terms of originality and storytelling. You should see Inglourious Basterds.
Don't let anybody tell you that this is just a sort of Tarantino pulp fun picture. This is a seriously provocative film. You mentioned the scalping that the Bastards do of the German or Nazi soldiers that they capture. Indistinguishable sometimes, regular German army or Nazi soldiers. They scalp them, kill them. They don't hand them over as prisoners of war. That is unquestionably makes these Americans, these Bastards, guilty of war crimes. I don't know whether it's the right thing or wrong thing to do here, but it's unquestionably provocative.
And those are very violent scenes, of course, and while this is a bloody, gory film, not as much as I expected it to be, especially coming from Tarantino.
Yeah, you know, like most Tarantino movies, there's a lot of talking in this. I love that. As you mentioned, the writing is great. Nobody writes dialogue like Quentin Tarantino. My favorite Tarantino film, Jackie Brown, has maybe more talking than any other Tarantino film.
And like that film, this one has a great cast, from Brad Pitt, who's solid in his scenes, to people like Mike Myers showing up in the film, and B.J. Novak from The Office has great moments. Rod Taylor and Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
What a performance.
As you say, Christoph Waltz is menacing in English. He is menacing in French, in German, and then at the end, Italian. Terrifying figure in 4 languages. Obviously, I think you should see Inglourious Basterds. From Tarantino to another writer-director, Todd Graff may not be Tarantino, but his film, Bandslam, is still laden with energy and passion. It's a battle of the bands high school drama, featuring Friends star Lisa Kudrow in the only meaningful adult role, and it's inventive, often clever, and features young adults who appear to actually know what they're doing on stage. Will Burton is the new kid, starting his junior year at a high school in New Jersey. Will, wonderfully played by talented 20-year-old Galen Cannell, is friendless, his encyclopedic knowledge and keen understanding of rock music lost on his classmates. But he meets 2 beautiful girls, both exceedingly talented singers. Charlotte, once the head cheerleader, played by Allison Michalka, and Sam, a reserved bookworm. She's played by Vanessa Hudgens.
Are we still gonna meet up after school?
Yeah, it's a date. Oh, not like a date. You know, we're just working on a project for class. It's not like we're dating.
She gets it, Will.
Will ends up managing Charlotte's band, turning her little group into a 9-person wall of sound, energy, and rock and roll intensity. Kudrow is very good as Will's mother, balancing parenting with being her son's closest friend.
You're pulling away from me a little bit, and I don't know how I feel about it. I have to say that out loud.
We are not having this discussion now.
Final musical numbers not only don't disappoint, they lift Graff's movie to new heights, showcasing the raw power of rock and roll. This is a family film that will actually be fun for the whole family. See it.
Boy, when you hear Vanessa Hudgens is following up the High School Musical trilogy with another movie about music in high school, you think, oh boy, this is going to be more the same. And it's completely different, and it's so much better. It's refreshing, inventive, as you said. It's very well written. And it's so nice to be able to talk about a movie on this show set in high school where the characters aren't stereotypes. The jock, the cheerleader, the nerd girl. It's not like that at all. These are characters who make mistakes. They redeem themselves. They grow throughout the course of the film.
Even the sort of the good-looking bad kid. No, it turns out he's not all bad at all. He just wanted to get his girlfriend back.
No, this is a lot of fun, and most importantly, it's appropriate for that High School Musical set that's going to come see this film because they're fans of Vanessa Hudgens. There's no references to drinking, to smoking. The language is appropriate. That's really important when you know you're going to have 6-, 7-, and 8-year-olds going to see a movie like this.
Yeah, I think more important than that is that it's good. But
yes,
the fact
it's very good.
But the fact is, you could bring a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, or an 18-year-old. The 18-year-old's not going to roll his eyes. There's just a lot to like here.
Yeah, very, very impressed and surprised by Bandslam. I think you should see it.
Coming up next, Eric Bana and Rachel McAdams deal with the ultimate long-distance relationship in The Time Traveler's Wife.
Will you marry me?
No. Henry. It's you. You told me this would happen. And I was supposed to act normal, but I'm not really acting very normal.
Based on the wildly successful novel, The Time Traveler's Wife stars Rachel McAdams and in his 3rd film this summer, Eric Bana. Unlike Star Trek and Funny People, here Bana is the lead, playing Henry, a man who has a genetic condition that causes him to time travel against his will. Over the years and throughout his travels, his love for McAdams, Claire, is the one constant in his very unusual life.
I wrote down every time that you came to visit me. You told me that you go back to the same places a lot.
Yeah, it's like gravity. Big events pull you in.
I was a big event.
So from the time Claire was a little girl, Henry has appeared to her periodically. It all sounds very romantic, but in the film, it's not effective. A film like this comes down to chemistry, and despite starring 2 likable actors, it just didn't seem genuine, even in their most intimate moments.
I never wanted to have anything in my life that I couldn't stand losing. It's too late for that. It's not because you're beautiful and smart and perfect. I don't feel alone anymore.
It's difficult to see in the film what McAdams sees in Bana, a man she knows she'll have to make a lot of sacrifices to be with. It's also difficult to tell where they are in their timeline. Bana's hair color goes from dark to gray, which is really the only thing to signify he's getting older, and McAdams basically looks the same throughout. Some fans of the book might enjoy seeing these 2 soulmates brought to life on the big screen, but for everyone else, the interpretation seems forced and at times inconsistent. Skip The Time Traveler's Wife.
I think they get into this too quickly, and I didn't have time to grow to care about this character before we're supposed to go with him on this difficult journey.
And I know it's sort of inexplicable why he time travels or where he goes or when he goes, but that becomes frustrating and annoying throughout the film and doesn't really add to the overall romantic feeling that does surround this idea of a guy who's coming and going in and out of this woman's life.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I don't quite see what she saw in him in the first place. That wasn't well established either. Now, I like Eric Bana, and I thought, you know, he's wonderful in Munich, a really sensational film. He's very funny.
Talented actor.
Very funny in funny people.
Great resume.
But here, he speaks to McAdams in sort of a contrived, romantic, husky voice throughout. It was like he was
speaking down to her in some of the scenes in a way. It's a little demeaning at times.
I felt like he was channeling sort of Christian Bale from Batman. It's just, he had an odd way of speaking to her. I didn't think it worked. I thought very little in the film worked. You know, I know that people who are passionate about the book are really passionate about the book, and I don't say this about movies much, but I sort of feel as if this might have been better if it were longer, that there are things missing that could have been added that maybe would have made us care about these characters more.
Yeah, filled with some holes, and there are a couple plot points that are really just inserted for convenience. They win the lottery just so they don't have to worry about money for the rest of the story, and it just, I don't know, something just didn't come together and it just didn't feel right.
I agree with you, and I think you should skip The Time Traveler's Wife. Coming up next, from producer Peter Jackson, it's the sci-fi fantasy District 9.
Nobody really knew what this place was.
The vessel seems to be disabled or in some kind of distress.
The course of human history has changed today.
The eight will not be able to go home. They're here to stay.
Our next film deserves far more time than the constraints of this show allow. It's District 9 from director and co-writer Neil Blomkamp, a visual effects artist and student of Peter Jackson, who produced the film. It's a piece of truly inventive science fiction, rich in political science too, but never heavy-handed. An alien spacecraft shows up hovering over Johannesburg in 1982.
The doors didn't open for 3 months. It just hovered there. Nobody could get in. And they eventually decided, after much deliberation, that the best thing to do would be to physically cut their way in.
There's no attack. The spaceship is just broken down. The aliens inside are sick and listless. Blomkamp has also made them wonderfully disgusting to look at. Quickly, the panicked human population herds them into a giant segregated refugee camp called District 9. Now, over 20 years later, MNU, the giant multinational corporation running the camp and motivated by its desire to make billions off the aliens' sophisticated weaponry, guns only the aliens can use, orchestrates a forced migration of the 1.8 million aliens to a new camp. And to lead that relocation, the company picks Weekus, an office drone, if there ever was one.
Yeah, I don't know. This has got the markings there so it's definitely alien, but it's not a weapon. But I don't trust it. You know, I don't trust anything that...
The aliens, prawns we call them because they're bottom feeders, are a lot smarter than we think. And when Weekus's DNA accidentally becomes mixed with the aliens, he becomes the answer to MNU's billion-dollar dreams and quickly becomes the most hunted man in the world. The creation of this alternate world is downright brilliant. The performance of Charlton Copley as Weekus is rich and complex. You'll love him one moment and detest him the next. And the pace is thrilling from start to finish. This is a great movie. See it.
What an achievement in filmmaking. Blomkamp is only like 29 or 30 years old, and for him to helm something as ambitious as this, it feels authentic. I love the sort of fake documentary that goes with this movie, and it raises so many themes here, from immigration to human rights. Being set in South Africa, it never mentions it, but it's sort of the backdrop, and you're thinking about apartheid. It's about internationalism, and it's about capitalism.
And corporate takeover of what clearly should be governmental duties. You know, in the previous movie we talked about on the show, The Time Traveler's Wife, there's basically a movie essentially without any science fiction. This is all science fiction, but we didn't get a proper introduction to the character. Here, you mentioned that documentary. We really learn who Weekus is through this sort of faux documentary that Blomkamp has to sort of set up the film.
There are moments with that incompetence that he's kind of endearing.
Moments, yeah, definitely.
Yes, and then there's moments of the incompetence when you are enraged at him and you almost hate him at times on screen, and then you find yourself rooting for him at other times.
One criticism, the only fully developed character in the movie is Weekus. The others, including his father-in-law who owns the company, a little bit cliched.
But the aliens, much more developed than I would have expected from a movie like this. They're on screen the whole time, have personalities, just a really interesting and different kind of movie. I think you should see District 9. Oscar-winning writer-director Hayao Miyazaki delivers our next film, the animated Ponyo, which was originally released in Japan and has now been redubbed for English-speaking audiences. And it features the recognizable voices of Matt Damon, Tina Fey, Cate Blanchett, and countless others. The voiceover acting is quite strong as well, especially from Liam Neeson, who plays Ponyo's father, Fujimoto.
We've all been waiting for you. The whole world is out of balance. Ponyo, you have to trust me. You're the only one who can save the planet. Do it now. Do it.
The story centers around a young boy who befriends a small fish named Ponyo, with big dreams of one day becoming human. Miyazaki, whose previous work includes the stunning Princess Mononoke, creates a beautiful movie, not just with the illustration, all hand-drawn, but with rich character and an unconventional method of storytelling. Ponyo is a delightful film that, in any language, plays wonderfully. See it.
Ben, it pains me to say anything critical about Hayao Miyazaki, whose sort of boundless imagination creates these unbelievably wonderful and inventive worlds. But I did think this movie was a little abrupt, scene to move from scene to scene quickly. I'm afraid, a little lost at times during
It's definitely
Ponyo.
abstract and surreal and kind of makes itself up as it goes along at times, but I like that it wasn't bound by the conventions of normal storytelling, and I love seeing a film that's just hand-drawn animation, old school. It's not CGI, 3D, and I think kids will have a good time because it's so colorful and fun and lighthearted.
Just a little too abrupt for me. I'm going to say rent it for Ponyo. Coming up next, Jeremy Piven and Ed Helms face off in The Goods.
I have a $44 haircut.
Right. The police are the real heroes, and because of that, we're offering 20% off and 0% financing to any police officer that comes down, anyone with a police hat, anyone that says the word police. And if you find an alligator in your car, $500 off.
Jeremy Piven has made a career for himself doing mostly supporting work over the years, and of course is now most recognizable from HBO's Entourage. Now he's the lead in the offbeat movie The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. Here Piven plays Don Reddy, leader of a team of car salesmen who bounce from one mid-market city to the next, eventually landing in Temecula, California over a July 4th weekend. They're hired by a dealership owner played by James Brolin, whose business is on the brink of failure. So he looks to Piven and his cast of characters for one last chance to move his lot full of used cars.
This dealership is our battlefield. Don't give up the fight. We are the Americans, and they are the enemy. Never again. Never again. Never again!
Piven by no means gets the film's biggest laughs. It's the supporting players here who steal most of the movie's best jokes, including the star of The Hangover, Ed Helms, who plays Piven's competitor from a rival dealership.
Are you in a boy band?
No, I'm in a man band. We're all over 30. We call it a man band.
You're men in a boy band.
We open for O-Town, right here in Temecula, okay? Google it.
A love story surrounding Piven and Brolin's daughter, Ivy, played by Jordana Spiro, feels really overlooked and underdeveloped, and several of the bits seem forced or tend to be dragged out too long. For example, Will Ferrell, a producer on the film, has a cameo that is downright hysterical the first time, amusing the second, and unnecessary the third. It had a strong first 20 minutes, but the concept ultimately runs out of steam. I definitely laughed, just not enough to fully recommend it. You can rent The Goods.
This was funny in the beginning, no question, but then it turned into, I thought, a sort of a very stale comedy, albeit with some laughs, no question. And really no story. I don't quite know what was happening that any person in the audience would ever have cared about.
Yeah, Piven's fine in the role.
I think he's actually quite good in the role.
Yeah, but he's really just there to sort of move the semblance of a plot and a story along, and it's really a chance for these sort of supporting players, the ones I mentioned, but also Ving Rhames and Ken Jeong to sort of shine and have funny one-liners. It's from director Neil Brennan, who worked on The Chappelle Show with Dave Chappelle, and very talented filmmaker and writer, so there's some funny stuff here.
No, clearly some funny people at work, but it felt more like the DVD extras on a funny movie where you see the sort of scenes that they tried to put in. So again, no real movie. I recommend going to see the first 20 minutes, but then leave and go to dinner.
Oh, I'd never do that.
I think ultimately, if that's my recommendation, I think you got to go skip The Goods.
Want to know what you can't miss this weekend? Well, stay tuned for my 3 to see.
At least I admitted it.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by...
I know what 10 plus 10 is. 15.
Want to feel really smart? Call today about our back-to-school special.
Call 1-800-STEAMER. Stanley Steamer gets carpet cleaner.
Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago. Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience. Located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
Okay, recapping the movies on this week's show. We both say you should see Inglourious Basterds. It opens next week. We were also both surprised at how much we liked Bandslam. We agreed you can skip The Time Traveler's Wife, and we both strongly recommend District 9. We, however, split on Ponyo. I say rent it, Ben says see it, and I say skip The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. Ben says go ahead and rent it.
Time now for my 3 to see, and we start with a movie that's part documentary and part scripted, Paper Heart. Comedian Charlene Yee's search to find the meaning of true love is creative and passionate. Yee is surely a talent on the rise. At number 2, Julie and Julia. Not only do title players Meryl Streep and Amy Adams deliver fine performances, but the film also features 2 terrific showings from the men, Stanley Tucci and Chris Messina. And at number 1, District 9. This is how science fiction should be done. Grounded in reality, yet fueled by a filmmaker's desire to tell a visually compelling story driven by strong, complex characters.
That's it for now. Remember, we are always online, and you can follow us on Twitter. Go to atthemoviestv.com to find out how.
And until next week, as always, we'll be at the movies.
Activon Ultra Strength for powerful pain relief. A convenient applicator means no messy creams. Activon, apply directly where it hurts for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache.
IRS problems? A tax relief agreement can help you.
I settled my tax debt for $800.
For a free consultation, call 888-644-3116 now.
Wasteful.
Washable. The reusable, machine washable Wonder Mop. Only from Libman.
Pay less BOGO. Buy one, get one half off everything. Save now. Feel good. Pay less.